Okay, it should be recording now. I selected recording to the cloud, so hopefully that was the right one. All right, so let me pull up. I was playing StarCraft earlier. Let's see here. Let me pull up VS Code really quick. Sorry, totally forgot to open this up earlier. Okay, this is npm package intro. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, can you guys see this all right? Okay, so now to kind of start, and Deepa, I know that you're brand new to this. So Node, just to kind of give you some context, Node, which is unlike a browser, Node is just a execution environment for JavaScript that lives like outside of the browser. So what that means is that a browser is kind of is perfectly capable of running JavaScript. Like that's kind of what it's for. JavaScript is like the main scripting language that browsers understand, and they have what's called an engine, which is able to run JavaScript. And for a long time, that was the only place that you could really run JavaScript in like a useful way. JavaScript was very much just a web-based language. Node comes along and basically they decided to just rip out the JavaScript engine that browsers have and let it run on its own. So, and also let it, they gave it certain functionalities that are more like languages like Java or C++ or C#, where it's this environment that lets you actually communicate with your operating system, and which was not possible before. So Node's really cool in that way, is that it's a JavaScript based, or it's a JavaScript runtime environment that you can use to build web servers and interact with your operating system. And built on top of that is what's called the npm module system. npm stands for Node Package Manager. And basically, it's this public registry of code. And so if we were to go to, let's go to npm. I think it's npm.org. This is definitely not. I think it's just node.org. Yes, it's in here somewhere. Here we go, nodejs.org. Oh, we got someone else, sweet. So Node basically, or the npm module system, Node Package Manager, all it is a registry of code that anyone can contribute to. So it's really cool because it allows people to share open source code. So one reason why this is really useful is because there's a lot of things that programmers do over and over again. There's lots of repetitive things that developers use, such as like, I don't know, certain like mathematical libraries or frameworks like React or Angular. There's theming systems like Bootstrap and other and Theme UI. There's hundreds of these things. And it would be kind of a pain to manually download code that you need to use. And it would be even more of a pain to have to rewrite it yourself. Like, how bad would that suck if you had to like write React every time you wanted to create a React app? Like that would be insane. So the NPM module system is really cool in that way, is that it lets us share code using this this registry, this public registry. And it provides a very easy command line interface tool set that lets you interact with it. So you'll learn about package JSON files if you haven't heard of that already, Deepa. And this, hopefully it'll make a little more sense like once you actually get introduced to it in like the vSchool curriculum. But all you need to understand is that whenever you're creating an NPM package is just an isolated set of code that can be reused and shared across this registry. So does that make sense? Or does anyone have any questions about that? Cool. So now, most of the time, especially in a bootcamp setting, you're always using other node modules, like with the npm install command, right? Like npm install nodemon or npm install React or create React app, stuff like that. But there is you can contribute. It's because it's a public registry, you can contribute to this as well. And Node or npm provides you with some command line instructions that let you actually publish your own libraries to this public registry so that everyone else can use it. And it's pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. At least the basics are. So my goal today is to kind of just show you how you would get a project up and running. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little node project here, and we're going to I'm going to install a package using the npm system, and we're just going to take a look inside of the node modules folder just to kind of get an idea of how maybe some of these node modules are put together. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a node project, easy peasy. Beautiful. And then let's make ourselves a index.js file. And we'll just make sure that this says index.js. Okay, sweet, awesome. And then let's install a library. Let me think. I should have thought about this earlier, but there's lots of libraries. Let's install Express. It's kind of a large library, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to install Express. Now, Express, for those of you who aren't familiar with Express, it's just a backend library for building node servers. And it's pretty awesome. So I just ran my command npm install. And as you can see in my package.json, it added that line to our dependencies file. The package.json is basically kind of the configuration file for this particular node project. So, of course, by default, it installs into this location. Now, all of a sudden, this is kind of overwhelming. There's a ton of items in here, which at first seems kind of crazy because, we only installed one library. But the thing is with npm is that when you install a node module, that node module may also have its own set of dependencies. Okay, so like we depend on Express for our application to work, but in order for Express to work, and then we'll go ahead and go find Express, which is right here. in order for this to work, we have to look at its package JSON and see what kinds of things it depends on. And you'll see that it's quite an array of dependencies. So just to kind of take a tour, let's see kind of what exactly is going on in this folder. So I'm looking at the package JSON for Express. A lot of these we don't really need to worry about. You know, it's got the author's name, stuff like that, contributors, etc. When you make your own node module, your package JSON isn't going to be this intense. There's our description. This is the version of node that is being used. Here's the list of files. And then here we go. Here's the Git repository. And what I wanted to point out was let's look a little bit more in depth here. So this files property is kind of defining an array of file names, which are kind of registered to this module. So index.js is right here. Okay, so this is essentially the entry point into this module. Okay, so I want you to think about Legos with node modules and node packages. They're just Legos. Node modules is literally the box of Legos, and the export system is what allows us to like use these blocks, so to speak. Okay, so the entry point is this index.js, and notice that it's exporting some code. Now, in this case, it's exporting something which it itself is importing, right? Require in Node is a special function that lets you import code. So let's go ahead and look in this file. So this is saying, okay, require everything. Go ahead.
Nope, never mind. I figured it out.
All righty. So we're going to look inside this lib folder, and you can imagine there's a bunch of stuff here. But okay, so it's getting from Express. So let's look at this guy. Okay, cool. So here we go. And we're not going to worry too much about the code here, but as you can see, as we kind of go down this tree, you can see how each file is doing two things. It's importing stuff kind of at the top, and then it's exporting stuff. Okay, so down here, it looks like this function is getting exported. Okay, cool. So that means that, and then over here, we can see that, you know, all of these guys, so if we're looking like, oh, I don't know, the utils, or sorry, not utils, let's look at, I don't know, body parser. This doesn't matter what this is. So that's in body parser, and then if we look, oh, that's actually, sorry, that's a separate library. We want to look at the ones that have the actual file path. One thing to note about node packages, you can always tell whether you're importing stuff locally or whether you're importing something from the registry. So if there's no file path, then you know that it's a registry module as opposed to something that's living in your own project, right? So this is saying, hey, go to the application folder. Okay, or in this case, file. We can go here, and then of course there's more. And it just gets more and more complicated, right? The tree gets bigger and bigger as we go down. It branches out further and further and further. So our module is not going to be nearly this complicated, but at the end of the day, what the goal is to create a package that just exports some set of functionalities that are useful. That's really what an NPM package is. And so we just have to code it in such a way to expose the functionalities that we want to expose in a way that follows the rules of Node. So any questions before we actually get into it? All right. So we'll go ahead and exit that. close all that. Okay. So I've created an index.js file. I could call this whatever I want. But my understanding is that Node by default is looking for files named index.js. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that is the default that it looks for. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna write just like a little fake library. It's not gonna do anything crazy. We just want to provide some like functions. Okay. So my go-to is always to just do little math utility functions. So for example, let's say I want this library to provide some basic arithmetical functions. Okay, so suppose I want to write a function that will add up an arbitrary number of numbers together. Okay, so we'll have a sum function that takes any number of arguments that are numbers, and it's just simply going to say nums.reduce. So we've got our sum, we've got our x, and we'll simply return sum plus x. Okay, so all it's doing is adding up a bunch of numbers, however many we add. And what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to use this anywhere we want. So in this case, we'll just make sure to say module.export equals. Now I could do this, but then that kind of limits what I can export, right? If I'm only exporting one function, then I can't, this isn't very useful. So I want to make sure to export an object, which then has properties that correspond to whatever I want. So I could, in this case, I've got sum, but I could of course add divide, subtract, etc. So having this be an object is a little more useful. Cool. So now I could go ahead and literally publish this right now. But before we do that, I want to show you some cool things you can do while you're like testing this. Okay, so it's always a good idea to test your code, especially before you publish it to a public registry. Now, usually we would write like actual unit tests and stuff, and I would set up like a whole testing environment to kind of give us a more robust sense of our code working. But I want to keep this simple. So I'm going to show you how you can use node modules locally. You can actually create a local registry that's essentially like NPM, but it's local to your computer. So you're not sharing it to the world, you're just sharing it to your computer. And then any other node project that you want to use, you can then import that code from your local registry. And it's really easy to do. So first of all, though, before we do that, we want to set up a separate project, right? Because I want to be able to use this function. I want to be able to use this set of functions in other projects. That's the whole purpose of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So we'll open a new window here, and we'll create a new project here. Go to playground and test proj. Okay, testing out our little library here. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and initiate our thing. Cool. And I'm gonna call a main.js here just so we can easily differentiate between the projects. It's not necessary, but I'm doing it anyways. So what we're gonna do is here, I want to be able to import code from my personal node module. And for those of you who may be confused, I use module and package kind of interchangeably. They're pretty much the same thing. Technically not. A module is pretty much any file that is exportable. A package usually refers to the thing that's actually in the node registry, but that's a minor distinction. So, okay, here's my project. I want to import my sum function because I want to be able to do something like this. Console log sum and then 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I want this, and I should see 10. All right. However, if I run this right now, I'm going to get an error because sum is not defined. Okay. Well, normally what you would do is you would run like npm install my math library. Well, we haven't published it at the registry yet. So we're going to first of all publish this to our local registry. And the way you do that is with the command npm link. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our project that this is our actual node. This is our package that we want to publish. We're going to run the command npm link. And what that does is that essentially creates a our package in our global node modules folder. All right, so if you look at this file path, this is kind of like my local npm node modules package. Or sorry, local meaning local my computer. It's not to this project, right? Like, in fact, I could delete these node modules and we're still left with where we were. Cool, and just to avoid confusion, I'm going to uninstall Express so that there's no more, so that we've got a nice clean package here. Okay, cool. So we just ran npm link in our project, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our other project over here. This is where I would like, test this out like manually. Obviously, we would want to write automated tests as well. But it's also good to be able to test it in other projects as well. So we're going to go over here, and now we're going to say npm link, and then we have to do the name of the package that I want to link. Okay, so that's the difference between these two commands. npm link, without any arguments, you run in your library project. Over here, you have to list the name, and the name is whatever the folder is called. Actually, it's more specifically, it's whatever this value is. So we'll go over here, and I'm going to do npm link, npm package intro. And look what just happened. Check it out. There's my code from over here. I'm literally looking at there. This is what's called a symlink. This code here is actually pointing to the code or the files living in this folder over here. So what this lets me do, which is really cool, is now I can say const. I'm going to call this arithmetic library, and this is equal to. We just use the require function just like we normally do, and there you go. So now I'm going to run my code. And we'll say arithmetic.sum, because remember, I exported this object. So I could, of course, destructure that object if I wanted to, using ES6 syntax, but I tend to like to do it this way, because then it's obvious what library or what method I'm using on which object. So let's see if this works. I'm going to run my code again. Hey, check it out. It worked. Super cool. Any questions so far? If I'm going too fast, let me know as well. All good? Cool. All right. So now this is cool, but it only lets us do this locally. Right, like suppose I wanted, suppose Shane wanted to use my library. Well, he wouldn't really be able to do that at this moment in time. So what I really want to do is I want to publish this to the Npm registry. And it's really easy. It's literally just one command. So we go back to our package. I'm gonna go. I'm happy with everything as it is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unlink. This just means it's gonna remove that package that I created locally. Fine, Shane. I'll find someone else that wants to use this library. And then let's go to where'd my other one go? Oh, whoops! I totally exited out of it. Let me go back to where I was. Test prod. Here we go. Okay. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and unlink npm package intro. Oops. That was. No, I guess it. Interesting. Okay. Cool. As you can see, the node modules went away, but now, my code is not going to work anymore. And I will prove it to you. So if I try to run this code again, there's our problem. Cannot find module, right? Because we just unlinked it. So let's publish this guy. Now there's a few kind of like unwritten rules. You can go to the npm documentation page where they kind of have like some community guidelines for like how to publish things. It's convention to provide a README for obvious reasons, because people want to know how to use your package. So like if I were to go to Express, for example, which of course is just an npm library, notice how there's this nice README here. And there's also a link to the GitHub. So I'm not going to make this, I'm not going to put this on GitHub, but you could if you wanted to. So here's this nice README that basically it uses what's called Markdown. And I may do like a separate event on just Markdown and writing documentation, which is not the sexiest topic in the world, but it's actually kind of helpful. But anyways, all this is just written in Markdown. That's how you're able to get like these headers and like, things just look nice. The code is formatted like actual code would look. You got bold, you got lists, things like that. This is all written in Markdown language, but it's just a README, and it just tells you how to use this library. Okay, so in our case, it's very simple. I just use some Markdown language. So here's my intro to creating node packages. And then I might have like a another headline here that's like start, right? And it just has, I just want to give people steps, how to use this. So I would do something like, all right, npm install npm package intro. And then I would probably want to have some documentation on what methods are available, right? So like, you can create like tables and stuff in Markdown, which I'm not gonna worry about right now, but like, just for Oh, sounds good, Lainey. Have a good one. So, you'd want to have some documentation on how to use. So you'd have like an API headline that says, here's some of the methods. So here's some, and you could have information here. So adds arbitrary quantity of numbers together. And in VS Code, it's got this cool little preview here, so you can see this. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and we could of course put an example here, just for the sake of it. So here's a JavaScript. So in this case, we'll say const arithmetic equals. Now this isn't actual code. This is just a markdown language. But it's just nice to have. So package intro, and then we would have a dot sum 1, 2, like this. And then you could put some notes or whatever you wanted. This is just helpful for people to who want to use this library. There you go. So there's our nice little README. And all right, let's publish this guy. So it's stupid easy. So we're just going to do npm publish. Oh, we've got a problem. What did I do? What did I miss? There's a step I missed. Oh, I think I have to, crap, I missed this step. I forgot this. There's one extra. Let's see. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought I did. Look at this guy. Always happens. Okay, that looks, yeah, okay. That's what I did. Let's see here. What am I missing? Sorry, guys, one sec. Okay, that's right. That's what I did. Oh, I wonder if I have to run the npm pack.
It's always nice to get reminded that these things happen even after lots of experience.
Yes, they happen no matter what. Let's see here. What am I doing wrong? This looks like, yeah, it publishes the thing. Okay. There it is. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why that's not. I don't know why that's happening. That shouldn't happen. At least according to. Am I in the right? Let me just make sure I'm in the right folder. Yeah. Okay. Very, very interesting. This package log. All right, I am slightly baffled right now. I've done this not a million times, but multiple times in the past, and I've never seen this error. So of course this would happen while people are watching. Gonna. Let me look something up. Error not found. Npm publish. Let me try that. Npm cache clean. Okay, okay. This is literally the last step. Yep, I got that. I got all that. Easy.
What is the on just like at the bottom of line 5, the debug? What I noticed that on mine too, and I had no idea what that was.
Oh, that's just a VS Code extension.
Why is it there?
Oh, because it lets you debug scripts. So like,
oh, it's above scripts. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. So if I had like an actual script, I could like debug it using this guy.
Yeah, I was actually trying to figure out how to write the npm start. So I ended up just saying fuck it and getting a boilerplate, but I was originally attempting to do it just from scratch. Is that a difficult process?
Is writing sorry, what's your question?
Sorry, I'll let you focus on this, but I would just the writing the so that I could run npm start from I guess is that Webpack or
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, so for building a React, like a React bundle from scratch.
Yeah, kind of. This wasn't using React, but yeah. But don't worry, we can talk about that later. We can focus on figuring this out.
Yeah, I'll I can definitely help you with that later. Faux show. Let's see here. This error is not helping me at all. It's saying it's not in the registry. You should bug the author to publish it. It's like, I am trying to. That's literally what I'm trying to do. Weird. Okay, I'm gonna try. I don't know if this is actually going to it seems weird that it would require a Git repository, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. So we'll just create a Git ignore. Okay. Let's see if that actually does anything. No, okay, that doesn't surprise me. Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I just realized something. I have to, yeah. So you can't just upload things to the registry anonymously for security reasons. So I totally forgot about this. You got to log in. So in order to, it's really easy to set up an Npm account. You just go to the Npm site and just create an account, just like you would anything else. So it's pretty straightforward. And then you just run this command, npm login. It'll ask you for your username and password, which, crap, I think it's this. Oh no. All right, well, this is literally the final step. It's the very last step. Come on. I'm pretty sure this is the right password. Oh, son of a... Let me think. Oh crap, am I gonna have to reset my password? Sorry, this is embarrassing. Let me try one more time. Totally forgot about this step when I was preparing for this. I'm pretty sure that is my username. I'm like 99% sure. Okay. Anywho, so I'm gonna do this, but what you do once you are able to log in, then you simply run the npm publish command, and and then you simply can, once it's published up there, you can just npm install like you would anything else. And it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna stop sharing really quick while I get my new password. So does anybody have any questions while I frantically try to reset my password? Okay, let me, I think this should work now. There we go. Okay, so I am logged in. Beautiful. All right, now let's run our publish command. I wish that they gave you a more informative error. Okay, check it out. So if we were to now go to the registry, so this is the npm registry, npmjs.com. we can search packages. So let's look for npm package intro. Hey, look at that. There it is. And check it out. There's my README. Very cool. All right, let's test it. Let's see if it actually, let's see if we can install it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to my test project, which is the little fake project I created so that I could test this guy. And we're going to say npm install npm package intro. Hey, look at that. Okay, it installed. There it is. There's my code. I shouldn't have left the comments in there. And then there's my README. This is all in node modules. And then all right, we're gonna run it. Let's see what happens. Hey, I just created and published an npm package and used it in a project. Had it not been for the login issue, it would have been about 5 minutes total. So pretty easy, right? That's how you do it. That's how you do it. There are a few things that you kind of always want to keep in mind. So obviously, software is never done. So you can imagine that you'd be updating this library over time, and it's good practice to stay up to date, especially with the README, and just to republish under new versions. So there are some best practices with that. So if you were really serious about writing an npm package that you wanted people to really use, you would want to make sure that your README is just very up to date, very informative, and that it reflected the most up to date code. And then you would also want to make sure that your versions are updated as well. So notice how by default, when you create a new node package or a new node project, by default, it starts out as version 1, which makes sense. But suppose I go in and I want to create a function that just does a bunch of, let's say I do a multiplication. Okay, so this is basically the same as this, just instead of plus, it's a times, and we'll call this multiply. Okay, cool. So we've got our code. Okay, version 1, of course, is currently installed or is currently living in the registry. Well, I've just added this function, so I want to make sure to publish this with the updated code. All right, so I'm going to attempt to do that. Just going to go ahead and npm publish. Of course, I would want to also commit if I were using git and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and publish, and let's see what happens. Okay. This is a new error, one that I actually did expect. 403 forbidden. You cannot publish over the previously published versions. Okay, so this is a safety mechanism, not so much a security mechanism. I mean, I guess you could call it that, but it's essentially a way to prevent version clashes. Okay, and you don't want to surprise people by committing new code under the same version number, right? Like that would be weird. Like you install a program, or like let's say one day you install a package, you're using it, cool. Next day you start a new project, you want to use that same library. Okay, you do an npm install, and let's say hypothetically the person managing that node module decided to update it prior to your second project, but let's say the version number was still the same. Well, when you go to install, you're going to get the same exact version number, but the code's going to be different than your last project. That can cause some serious problems. And imagine if it's the same project where you install a new dependency or whatever, you run an npm install, and all of a sudden the code that was living in version 1 has been changed, but it still says version 1. Like that would not be good. So this is why they throw this error, is so that it kind of forces you, anytime you make a change via a publish, that you are creating a new version. So this is kind of standard practice with versions. The number furthest to the left is kind of like a major release. So this would be something like a code breaking release, or something that's like a fundamental update that may or may not be backwards compatible with previous versions. This number represents kind of like maybe some new features were added, or maybe there's like some new bug fixes were included. So these are kind of more minor updates, but they shouldn't be if you're going from like 1.0 to 1.1, you shouldn't be breaking anything that was in version 1. If anything, you should be fixing bugs that were in version 1, but you don't want to break things that were in version 1 if you're going from version 1 or going to version 1.1. This last guy here is for like really, really minor updates, like patches, for example. Like there's one tiny typo in the README, and the API, there's the method is misspelled or something, or there's some minor bug that needs to be fixed. And that's we call those patches, and that would be the appropriate place to put this. So I've created a feature, right? I've added a method. So this would be considered more of a minor update, not a patch, but a minor update. So I would probably put this as 1.1, and I'm going to go ahead and publish this guy. And I don't think I should see any issues. Yep, so there it goes. It worked. And if we go to the registry and refresh, you're going to see, oh, you know what? I just realized. Okay, so I made a mistake. Version 1.1, so that's good. That's good. However, I made a mistake. I didn't update my documentation to include the multiply. Oops. Well, good thing I just went over all those versions, because now I can go ahead and patch it. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to my README, and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about this. Let's add this guy. So this is now multiply. Multiplies arbitrary quantities, right? And then this becomes multiply. So that would be what? 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Cool. Okay, sweet. So we're going to go to our package, and we're going to patch it, right? I'd probably want to make note of this in a git commit as well. And we'll go ahead and publish it and see what happens. Beautiful, it worked. We're going to refresh. Let's double check that version updates, and we're going to look at the README, make sure it updates. Boom, there it is. Cool, any questions? I know it's a lot of information. Sweet, well, that's how you do it. Normally, if, so this is for doing like very, very basic libraries. It gets a little more complicated when you start getting into unit testing and actually like actively developing and testing your code, because you'd have like an entire development setup where you're like running tests, you're running lints, and you're creating builds and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, all you really need to do is just make sure that you are creating a file that is exporting the functionalities that you want. and that's pretty much it. So however you get to that point, whether it's through a Webpack or some other build process, like for example, let's say you're using TypeScript, you obviously can't just export TypeScript files. You have to actually compile it to JavaScript first uh, before exporting that. Obviously, because otherwise, Node doesn't know what TypeScript is, so it would freak out and it would say that your syntax is weird because it's seeing things like import star as something from somewhere when it's just like, what's import star? So just some things to keep in mind. But I hope that was informative. And Deepa, I know this is all very, very new. But I hope it gives you kind of a little window into some cool stuff you can do.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost there, so this is good to have like some background and
Yeah, like when you get into it, you'll like, it'll be nice having it be a little familiar. You'll be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that. So that'll be good. But yeah, that's all I got, guys.
okay, thank you. Will you do this again next week, you said?
Yeah, I do this every week. I don't know if so the topic in the vSchool blog is duplicated. So it'll probably be a different topic than what's listed there next week.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I do this every week, same time.
Okay, I'll join in.
Cool.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think I might do Git next week or
That would be nice because I'm kind of curious about that.
yeah, Git is really cool. I also I think I'll most likely do Git and I'll try to make and I might make it like kind of interactive and fun because we'll all get to contribute to like a
Yeah,
Git repository depending on how many people show up.
yeah. I noticed like some of these, especially with like JavaScript and like this, like it's just yeah, like the way that instructors teach it or like present it,
Uh-huh.
it's already boring in a way. Not boring, but and then you're just like, how do you make this fun?
Yeah, I know.
Here, any way you can make it fun, but it's just very interesting, yeah.
Indeed.
Maybe you can just like come up with like a rap, like
A
a
wrap.
like line. Just be like the no package. I don't know. I can't do it, but it's
I'll have
like,
to come up with a Git wrap.
all right. Well, you have a good week, and then we'll see you next week.
Alrighty, thanks, Deepa. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah, I
it.
hope everything works out.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely reach out. I know you probably have a lot on your plate, but um, I'll definitely reach out and stuff.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to say hi.
Okay. Well, bye.
All right, see ya. Word. Well, do you have any did you want me to look at that TypeScript thing? I mean React thing?